What's up, folks? Welcome back. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical, everybody. Oh no, I think my stacked events have broken my on-screen chat. That's too bad. Well, we're just gonna have to deal with it, I think, chat. I apologize for that, but it will be in the live chat feed afterwards. The reason that happens sometimes is that every time I have multiple events live on YouTube, I think it always takes the oldest event that was created when it feeds to my chat, and I'm actually streaming the Battle Brothers GT this weekend. So if you come hang out with me Saturday and Sunday, I'm going to be live streaming a bunch of competitive 40k. That's probably where our chat messages are going, so that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Thanks everyone for coming and joining. Today we have a super sick episode of Tactical Tuesday to get into today. Last week was a little bit of a quiet week. We like low-key took a week off, I guess, a little bit, but that is not going to happen today because we have so many cool lists to talk about. If you watched my Monday video, my Best Armies in 40k video, you'll know that this is probably one of the most diverse weekends in terms of winning factions that I think we've ever seen. Like historically in 40k. It was close to having every GT won by a separate faction. I think that I don't believe that there were quite enough undefeated lists to have undefeated players over the course of the weekend to have every single faction be represented in the undefeated bracket. But I think we only doubled up on 3 factions, which means that if my math is correct, we had 19 undefeated and 16 different factions within that. That's insanity. The lists that are winning are super cool. We're seeing some huge innovations, even within, sort of Index Hammer, which is where we are right now, where every faction's got one detachment. But as we'll talk about today, we have a lot of X and 1 lists to get into, and there are some detachments and lists that are so far off the beaten path. It is awesome. It's super duper cool. It is very much the story of Chaos right now, to be fair. We're seeing Chaos Space Marines do incredibly well, as they have for the last couple weeks. We're also seeing some of the other Chaos factions do well. We've got a little bit of Chaos Knights in there, a little bit of Chaos Demons, some Thousand Suns, some Death Guard. All those guys are up in that X and 1 area. So I think the Chaos Super... It's good to be a Chaos Super Faction player right now, because they're putting up some results currently. Man, absolutely insane. Jonathan Hertz, first time watching live. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for coming and hanging out. Appreciate that. Scott Toby, hey, Death Guard GT win yesterday. Congratulations, dude. It's awesome to see Death Guard win. I mean, they were so bad at the start of the edition. Honestly, I think I've said it before, but I don't get tired of saying it. I think they're the real success story of the data slate updates, because they went from being horrible, right? When the index was released, they didn't do anything. They released a hugely transformative, super thematic, super cool and flexible mechanic for them. A little bit of points changes here and there, and they went from being basically unplayed to being pretty good. They didn't break them. They didn't stay dead. They just moved up to being, I would say an above average faction, probably. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head for Death Guard, but they're probably within the 50 to 55% win rate right now. Yeah, Death Guard's super duper duper cool. Inky's here. She wants to say hi to chat. What's up, girl? You want to come say hi? We're just going to scratch my chair and look at me insolently. Come on up. Nope, she doesn't want to say hi. She wants to be heard, not seen, I guess. So happy Death Guard are good now? Yeah, it's awesome. And we have some cool Death Guard lists to talk about. Nurgle represent. Where's Nurgle Matt in here while we're talking about Death Guard? Would I recommend for a 0 transport World Eaters list? Well, I think you need Invocatus to scout move your guys up the table to deliver them. I think a focus on 8-bound and Exalted 8-bound is really sort of the meta right now, especially for non-transport lists. Those guys are super fast. They compound well with the speed buffs that the faction gets, and they hit like an absolute Mack truck. They're like the only 9th edition melee stance remaining in 10th edition, almost, is what it kind of feels like. Pretty good. All right, chat. So a little bit of housekeeping, by the way, before we hop off here. I'm going to show off some stuff that I've been working on. Here we go. I have a new calendar. I've linked this in the video description. Because I'm doing a lot more in-person live streaming, I've started to upload all of my upcoming live streams into this calendar. So it's just going to be a public link. You're going to be able to just access it wherever. And I'll probably put this in my link tree. And it also has an integration into the Discord server. So if you're over in the Discord server, every time I post an event, it'll get posted over there into the stream schedule channel. And basically, I've just been posting all my live streams. So obviously, we got Tactical Tuesdays. I'm going to be streaming right after this, or somewhere about 6:30 p.m. is when I plan to go live. Tyranids versus Drukhari, which should be a pretty spicy matchup. I'm playing some absolute jank, so we'll see if I can actually get a win with weird Tyranids. We'll find out. It'll be fun. We have a pod finals tomorrow as well. That's going to be Chaos Knights versus Grey Knights. That should be a great one. And then obviously all weekend we have the Battle Brothers GT. In December, I'm also going to be streaming the Everwinter GT. The tickets for that are still live. That should be a major level event if you have a free weekend in December. That's the weekend of 8th through 10th, I believe. There's a lot of satellite events going on, lots of additional events on the Friday, and then obviously big GT on Saturday and Sunday. And even if you don't want to continue to participate in the GT, there are seminars and classes and other events in that convention as well. It was they ran an absolutely incredible ship last year. It was in Boston. Now it's just outside of Boston, so it should be easier to get to and less expensive, which is good. It's going to be amazing. So I highly recommend you all go check that out. I'm going to be there streaming, and I'm going to be at Battle Brothers GT this coming weekend. So that's all good. Let's talk about some lists, chat. So I took the opportunity to note down some of my favorite lists that I noticed over the weekend from the largest events. If we have obviously specific factions that we want to dive into, we can do that as well and just take a look-see through the top lists in these big events here. But I'm going to pull up my links. We can talk about some good ones. I know there's going to be some ones that people want to see. We saw, before we get too far, we did see a lot of results from Black Templars. I know there's going to be somebody in there who's like, hey, Black Templars, how did Black Templars do? Let me tell you, they did pretty good. So this is Raccoon Rumble. We saw Ironstorm Black Templars do pretty well. They called it the Austrian Highway, which I appreciate. Real Autobahn energy over here. Running, I think this is sort of becoming the classic Ironstorm Spearhead detachment. Double Tech Marines, one is Master Machine War, and one is Target Augury Web. Sometimes you see the Combi Weapon Lieutenant in the Master Machine War slot because he has Lone Operative even if you kill his vehicles, whereas the Tech Marines don't. But the Tech Marines are cheaper. You obviously get more uses of Blessing of the Omnissiah, so I think it's kind of a side grade, to be fair. A bunch of Impulsors with multi-meltas because they're Black Templars Impulsors, and then Bellicotis missile arrays. So just tons and tons of anti-tank shooting from these guys. Triple Reapers. They can, if you Mercy as weakness, an infantry unit that is wounded, the Reapers then trigger sustained 2 on 5-ups. And if they're Oath to Moment, obviously you can fish for that, and then you can just get insane numbers of damage. AP 0 damage, but the Sustains can then get into twin-linked wound roll, so they have a pretty good shot of rolling a devastating wound out. Just a lot of DACA from these guys. Super duper strong. Hellblaster squads to go inside the Impulsors, obviously. The cool thing there is that if you have the Impulsors next to the Target Augury Web, when the Impulsors adopt the Hellblaster weapon to use after firing deck, it is the transport shooting it. So it is a vehicle attacking. Inky will not let me move my hand, by the way. All she wants is scritches. So the Impulsors are going to be able to fire their own 2 multi-melta shots, and the missile array, I don't remember off the top of my head how many shots the missile array gets. It used to be like a multi-shot profile, right, where it would fire a couple different things, but now I don't know what it is. I think it's just a crack missile. Why have I lost it? Let's pull up their datasheet momentarily here. Boop. So here we go. Yeah. So it's a modal weapon. You can either fire a Strength 8 AP2 D6 damage, a D3 shot AP1 2 damage, or a D6 shot 4 damage. Obviously, all of that then gets lethal hits from the target augury array. Plus, the Hellblasters can then shoot off the top, so they're adding another 10 Strength 8 2 damage shots on top of that. There's like a little bit of a weirdness to dedicated transports, depending on your FAQ that you're playing with, your event FAQ. If the Impulsor is wounded, or you roll abysmally on hazardous checks from overcharging the Hellblaster weapons, the Impulsor can actually kill itself, destroy transport, disembark the Hellblasters, who have not yet been selected to shoot in the shooting phase, who can then also shoot. So you could potentially fire the Impulsor multiple times if it is wounded heavily enough to be killed by its own hazardous checks. That's like very unlikely to happen, but it can technically occur, potentially. We then have some Predator Annihilators, Predator Destructors, and Scout Squads to round things out. Not rocking the Black Templars Gladiators, but I think that we're sort of Black Templars Gladiatored out on the Reapers. The Valiant is kind of cute because it has extra Melta shots, and it's already wanting to get in that short range. But I think that you get so many 24-inch range guns between the Reapers and the Valiants, excuse me, if you're taking them, that I think they sort of have to get in their own way. They sort of want to occupy the same space on the table. Am I going to try the Genestealer list? I might try the Genestealer list. The list that I'm playing this tonight is the... I think we talked about it either last week or the week before, but it was a Vanguard Onslaught running triple melee warriors. So that's what we're going to do today. It was like the Monster Brick, triple Exocrine, double Maleceptor, plus 18 melee warriors with attached Tyranid Primes. So we'll see how that one goes. I have no idea. There's no Hive Tyrants in it. I am a little bit more interested in Tyranids now that the Games Workshop ruling has come through that you can use free stratagem effects on command reroll. Obviously, that's not rules as written, but Games Workshop doesn't care about the rules as written. So any events using that FAQ, which is, I think, to say most of them, you are allowed to command reroll with Hive Tyrants, which I'm kind of digging. It means that when you're not using the free strats of the Hive Tyrant, you're still getting value out of it. You're like, oh, I don't need to use an offensive strat this turn. I don't have one in my detachment. I can just reroll a hit roll, reroll a wound roll. And that's just like added value to an Exocrine or something, which I do actually really like. So kind of excited about Tyranids. I do have some Tyranids noted down if we want to jump ship to Tyranids from Black Templars. So Raccoon City Rumble also had a little bit of a Tyranid presence at the top. Oh no, what have I clicked on here? I don't know what I did there. Here we go. We're back. Tobias Wolf over here. This is an X1 5-1 with Tyranids, a standard invasion fleet, but we took some spicy monsters in the monster brick. It's a Hive Tyrant, Narrow Tyrant, Death Leaper, kind of standard stuff when you do gargoyles. Some Barb Gaunts, which we haven't seen in a while. Since Genestealer Cult haven't been quite as scary. Barb Gaunts have sort of fallen by the wayside, but I mean, they're still really good. 12 points a model for a unit that will just kill 10 infantry every time it shoots. You basically, like, most 10 model infantry squads are 70 or higher points. And Barb Gaunts will kill them in one shot, which means they almost always pay for themselves. And even if they don't, they're a 60-point utility in it. If you have Termagants in your army, strongly consider replacing them with Barb Gaunts, unless you really need the scuttling move. Because Barb Gaunts are the same number of wounds, they're harder to kill, they're higher toughness and save. Obviously, they're not as numerous, so they don't get those benefits, but their bases are bigger, so if you need them to screen. And they have an insane ranged attack, so pretty good. They can't advance and do stuff, this is the downside, I guess, unless you're next to the Hive Tyrant. Two Exocrines and then 2 Haruspexes. So we're taking the double Exocrine backline, 2 Haruspexes at the front line, and backed up by 2 Maleceptors. So 6 monsters in the monster brick, plus double Neurolictor, not triple, for shame, 2 Pyrovores, 3 River Swarms, and a Trigon. So tons and tons of monsters in this list. I like this one a lot, actually. Just very straightforward Tyranid stuff. We're just pushing up and eating people with big Gribblies. Nom, 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 nom. Delicious. Back to Nid's gameplay. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. I am getting a little tired of Thousand Suns. They're kind of sucking right now. But we do have some insane... At least one insane Thousand Suns army to talk about, so that'll be good. Go forward painting. Oh, yeah, thanks for the reminder. Yeah, if anybody wants to hit that like button, that would be... I would appreciate it. That would be nice. Good traffic jams? Yeah, maybe. I think one thing that often happens with the... If you're running a build like this, where the Maleceptors aren't the front line, is the Haru Spexes go up the middle, right? And then they get double rapid regeneration from the Hive Tyrant. And the Maleceptors just, like, deploy on the flanks and run around by themselves, essentially. And then they kind of converge in the middle. So you're creating, like, a broad front rather than a narrow front. Whereas a lot of times when you're taking just Maleceptors or Exocrines or something, and you don't have any other frontline monsters, the Maleceptors will go to the middle and just try to, like, drive to the center objective. I think with the Haruspexes, those are going to be taking that role, and then the Maleceptors are going to be going around the sides. Because they don't necessarily need to be quite as close to the opponent to threaten them. They can just move around and shoot. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of Thousand Suns, I've already talked about it enough, I think. We'll move over to the California Cup. So this was a 96-player event. Raccoon Rumble was bigger, 170 people, so almost twice the size. But California Cup went all 9 rounds. It went to a single undefeated, which was kind of insane. I talked about Anthony Vanella's list. If you're looking for a World Eaters list, by the way, chat, Anthony Vanella's list is a good place to start. Very classic, sort of straightforward 8-bound style World Eaters build right now. Cool to see them win as well. World Eaters have been kind of like, kind of whatever recently. But, I mean, that faction scores so well that it's not surprising that they're able to take the W occasionally. A lot of Gladius task forces as well. A lot of Dark Angels Gladius task forces going on. All right, but this one we're talking about today is from... let me just name the player. Is it the one at the top? Yeah, so it's Nico Urea, who is running a Thousand Suns gun line, take 4. We've iterated several times. One thing you'll notice in the character slot here, there's no Magnus, chat. Where did Magnus go? We're running Magnus-less Thousand Suns. If you've been watching my gameplay with Thousand Suns recently, which has been abysmal, by the way, I've been just bouncing off that faction so hard. I was doing so well a couple weeks ago, and I'm just sucking with it now. I've been kind of like harping on the fact that I wish the other units in Thousand Suns were less expensive, but Magnus was more expensive, so you could incentivize non-Magnus builds. Because right now, it feels like every list is just Magnus all the time. It's the Magnus show. How much damage Magnus does dictates whether you win or lose a game. And it's like that's like what's going on. Not so for this list, because we've just left him at home entirely. We're taking one Exalted Sorcerer on disc, so the slowdown guy with the crystal, so he can teleport to pick somebody out and slow them down. An Infernal Master with Arcane Vortex, because he does ridiculous damage, Ahriman, and a Demon Prince with Lord of Forbidden Lore. So the Demon Prince has a 6-inch aura that broadcasts stealth onto your units. Not range-dependent stealth, just straight-up stealth, so you're -1 to be hit. We took 2 Rubric Marine squads, so just 1 of 5. These guys might be hanging out with... they're probably hanging out with the Arcane Vortex guy, to be honest. The Disc Sorcerer with the Crystal has a lot of like interesting plays he can do just by himself, and having a single character with a Crystal is pretty good just for jumping around to do secondaries. So we'll likely see an Infernal Master with the Rubric squad to give him rerolls, and then Ahriman inside the big Flamer squad to use as just like a problem solver. And then the Demon Prince can't join the unit, but he buffs everyone, and then the Monster and Vehicle section is nuts. Triple Mutalith Vortex Beast, triple Forge Fiends. We're just shooting people. These things are like, they're so like inconsistent. They have no rerolls. They're kind of like low attack volume. They're like, I don't know what happens, but they are kind of cheap. At least the Forge Fiends are. Megalith Vortex Beast at 165 is like a little expensive. But I think we're just sort of like quantity is a quality all its own in this case, where we're just firing more guns at people if we want to actually deal damage with our guns. It's fine. We have like Ahriman for like a once per game. We can yeet Twist of Fate at somebody and then like blow them up with all the monsters and vehicles and stuff. You can do double moves to get them into position. So if you have enough Cabal points, which I think is a little tough for this army, if it's all on the table, which it not always is, it only generates 3, 5, 8, 12 Kabbalistic ritual points, and that disappears very quickly. If you Umbralific Crystal, that immediately costs you 2, and potentially more if you want to keep the Sorcerer alive. He can like Crystal into a weird spot, trigger his abilities, and then double move to escape, which is kind of cute, but it does mean it costs you a ton of Cabal points. And then the Arcane Vortex guy, everybody just being like beelines for that guy because he's so dangerous. You have to kill him immediately. So it's probably only getting a couple of extra moves and rerolls and stuff over the course of the round. But yeah, absolutely wild. We then have Blue Scribes for a lone operative, 3 units of Zangor Enlightened. With spears, interestingly, that's probably just a mistake. Usually the spears are okay, I guess. They have lance, so it's not too bad. But for secondary play, woof, this list is wild. Totally off the beaten path for Thousand Sons, and it did very well. Super cool. I feel like a Maleceptor is much scarier than Leman Russ. I don't know if that's entirely the case. What's my opinion on the Vortex Enhancer in the Demon Prince for better melee? The Demon Prince isn't really fast enough to reliably get into melee, in my opinion. You want it on the dude with the gun, basically. It also affects him in melee, and he will oftentimes get engaged in melee. Either he's charging or somebody's charging his unit to try to get rid of him. And so it also buffs him in melee. The issue is that the Demon Prince is like this big, slow, expensive monster that your opponent's just going to kill. He can't double move into melee, so you don't have any threat extension. And I don't believe it affects his gun, right? Is his gun psychic? I don't think so. It's just a big bolter. He just gets more shots than a regular Demon Prince because he's a Zinch guy. I'm going to double check that. Yeah, it doesn't affect his gun at all, which is like, what's up with that? That's annoying. So it's literally only the melee attack. So I don't know if I really like it. Like, it gets him to strength 9, which is a big break point, and 4 damage is cool, but the flamer guy is just going to do way more damage with it. Magnus is just on the slide line cheering through the war. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this list is absolutely insane. When I clicked on this Thousand Sons list, I was like, oh, let's see what people are having success with. This is not what I expected to see. But I definitely feels like that you have to, I think, like really try to transform the faction to do well with Thousand Sons right now. They are in not a very strong spot. Do I think any other factions will get a psychic detachment the same way that Thousand Sons have one? Maybe Grey Knights, but those are and maybe like I could potentially see like a Seer-focused Eldari detachment, but those would be the only factions that have traditionally been the psychic factions, besides Tyranids, but Tyranids just have psychic powers that are guns, so Tyranids do less esoteric stuff with their psychic powers. They just explode your head with them. So I would potentially say Grey Knights and maybe Eldar, but those are the only factions I could really see getting them. I wouldn't expect like a Librarius detachment in the future out of any of the Space Marine factions or something. Do Forge Fiends have a place in World Eaters? Well, having guns is never bad. The World Eaters Forge Fiend is certainly the worst one, I think, by far. The Forge Fiend profile by itself, like, it's not terrible. It's just not amazing. It's very, like, it's a variable shot count, like no rerolls. I think you can get it rerolls if you declare it a battle round earlier from Angron, right? Is like the only way they get it in World Eaters. Because he can declare it start of charge phase to then go until your next charge phase. So if you set up a turn earlier with Angron, you can maybe buff your guns. But Angron's not usually in the same place as on the battlefield as Forge Fiends. So, I mean, I don't think that you're going to like entirely hamstring yourself by taking a Forge Fiend in World Eaters. It just doesn't really synergize with the rest of the faction, and its special ability is kind of poopy. All the Forge Fiends have a cool special ability. The Chaos Space Marine one is clearly incredible. The Thousand Suns one battle or suppresses people, gives them -1 to hit, which is good. The World Eaters one just forces Battle Shock, which isn't very good in your own shooting phase. So like, I mean, I think I would play one just to keep your opponent's head down so they can't deploy on the line against you. The one thing that Forge Fiends are good at is like, if your opponent has kind of squishy ranged attackers, one thing against non-shooting World Eaters they can often do is they can just like play them in the Sprinkler. They can put them on their backline and get good lines of fire everywhere. But if you have a Forge Fiend, you could just kill them if they do that. So that's the benefit that you get out of it, but it doesn't really synergize with the rest of the army. So I would say, probably. It's not too bad. Librarius detachment would be pretty cool, yeah. But the Council of Nicaea decreed that you're not allowed to have them. So they couldn't put it in the Codex. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. That would be like a Blood Ravens detachment, right? You'd have Gabriel Angelos. You'd hide your units in metal boxes. Because the Blood Ravens are all librarians, right? Or they have more librarians than normal, if I remember correctly, my lore. Oh, hi. Inky, you want to come up on stream? You thinking about it? Come here. Okay. Eldar could get a psychic detachment? Yeah, I think so. Like Eldar, in the past, Eldar Seer Councils have been a list archetype by themselves, like a list that focuses on Warlocks and Skyrunner Conclaves. That was largely because they were like the biggest Death Star in the faction. You could have like this insane unit of like 9 dudes with, that all get the same like concentrated buffs. I don't know if that really works as well in 10th edition, but I could see it be a detachment in the future. Definitely. Definitely. Thoughts on a Hellbrute being used to farm Cabal points? I think it's okay. The issue is that it's just like, it's not statted quite as nicely as the other monsters and vehicles in the faction. And it itself doesn't really do anything, right? It's like, oh, I shoot a gun and maybe I have like get into melee once a time. So you're paying a bunch of points for some regenerating Cabal points that you could just have spent on more dudes who generate Cabal points. Like the number of Cabal points you'll generate a turn is like maybe 2. And you could just buy a character for that and have 50 points left over for Cultists or something. Mr. Full Seer Council? Yeah, same. Those lists were, I always thought those lists were cool. I'm like I think I'm a bit of a Death Star fan myself. This is fully armed and operational battle station. All right, moving on. Let's continue talking about Chaos, chat. Because we have some cool Death Guard, also at the California Cup. This was, I will grab their name, Grant Kaufman at California Cup. Yeah, I called this one in my notes. I called it Allied Death Guard because it's really focusing on bringing Nurgle allies in, which is kind of sweet. It's got a Death Guard Chaos Lord, which is cool. An Icon Bearer for the big pulse of contagion. 2 Malignant Plague Casters. Just gonna grab another look at these guys. It's been a minute since we got the Malignant Plague Caster previewed and shown off to everybody. So they've got a Strength 6, AP 2, D3 damage, D6 plus 3 hazardous torrent weapon. I guess the interesting thing about the Plague Casters, if you're taking them in Plague Marine squads, is that you are oftentimes taking many plasma weapons inside the same Plague Marine squad. So overcharging or overcasting your psychic powers is not quite as dangerous to the Plaguecaster himself, because he can pass that failed hazardous check onto his plasma weapon armed models, which is very funny. What are you doing, kitty? And then you can subtract 2 from move, advance, and charge rolls in somebody that an infantry unit that you shot against. You can also give enemy -1 to wounded melee, so it just makes your stuff more difficult to kill. So you can compound that with Nurglings, the contagion for -1 to hit, right? And then also grant them -1 to wound thanks to the Plaguecaster. So if you're using the Plaguecasters offensively, which it looks like we probably are, almost assuredly, actually, you can really make a Death Guard army like a classically survivable Death Guard army in very targeted instances where your opponent's -2 to hit and -1 to wound on a high toughness, against a high toughness profile, which is pretty cool if, for example, you are taking nothing but War Dogs and Plague Burst Crawlers. So this list is taking those characters, 1 unit of Plague Marines, 3 Rhinos. So it's 1 Plague Marine squad that maybe gets the Chaos Lord embedded into it. And then the Rhinos are just carrying Plaguecasters around other than that. So if you don't need the all the psychic effects, the Plaguecaster can just duck out of the top of the Rhino and fire the Flamer to add some D3 damage to people. And -1 toughness is a pretty big deal for that strength 6. It means that toughness 12 vehicles like Land Raiders, you now wound on 5s with the strength 6 Flamer. And that's kind of a big deal. So those guys are probably good for 4 or 5 damage on a Land Raider by themselves. And then if you need to, you can bail them out, shoot the -1 to wound, and flamethrower people for real. We then have a big Plague Marine squad, 2 bloat drones. These guys are sweet. We're kind of fast. They're hard to kill. You have to kind of overcommit to kill them for 100 points. And if you don't kill them, obviously they'll lock an objective. So they're oddly really good utility units just because they're so tanky for their points value. We then have 3 Plague Burst Crawlers, 5 units of Nurglings. Yeah, 5 units of Nurglings. So again, we're trying to stack all these penalty buffs on your opponent. The Nurglings grant non-monster vehicle -1 to hit in melee within 6 inches. So all of those don't care who you target, by the way. So I believe that's correct, right? The Plaguecaster doesn't care. Yeah, you just get -1 to wound when you make a melee attack. So you can affect, regardless of who they're attacking, you can affect them with all of these debuffs. And then we have 3 War Dog Brigands to really make use of that. The War Dog Brigands, it's another unit that really benefits from the -1 toughness auras as well. So we can like throw bloat drones and these characters into your opponent, super duper stack debuffs on them, and then just wait around with like high OC War Dogs for a while. This is a very cool list, chat. This is super sick. I really appreciate that. I think they've sort of captured the Nurgle essence of inflicting disease on people and being able to concoct your own, like, strain of disease by taking different debuffing units all together into one soup is very cool. And it sort of constructs a list like this that is, like, totally unique and nothing like anything we've ever seen from Death Guard before. That is a super cool list. This is Chaos Space Marines allied with Death Guard? No, this is just Death Guard, but it's allied with Death Guard. The only allies you can do with Chaos Space Marines is you can take Plague Marines in a Chaos Space Marine army. You can't go vice versa, so you can't take other Death Guard units with a Chaos Space Marine army. However, you can ally in Nurgle Demons and Chaos Knights. So we're taking like 650 points or so of almost 700 points. We're getting close to it of non-Death Guard allies that the faction can take. What's the bare minimum Cabal points I would consider having in a Thousand Sons list? That's a great question. I don't know if I really like approach it in that way. I guess like I try to have between 7 and 10 on the table at any one time. 7 unlocks. Oh god, Inky just put hair in my mouth. 7 unlocks either a double move and a reroll or a free strat, depending on what you need. 10 gets you 10 to 12 gets you like a double move and a reroll or two extra moves. Or a double move and a free stratagem or 2 double moves, which are all kind of important breakpoints. So I would say like between 7 and 12 on the table is really like kind of the baseline is what I'm looking for. But Thousand Suns are so weird because their Cabal points total changes very quickly, like just naturally over the course of the game. So it's hard to be like, oh, well, my list generates 22, so that's how many I'm going to have to play with. Because, like, actually it doesn't, because, like, a unit will be in a transport, a unit will be in strategic reserve, a unit will be killed, and then suddenly it all changes. So it kind of depends on what's on the table at any one time. But when I'm determining what's in reserve and stuff, I usually try to get at least 7 for sure. Noxalicious, I usually do list reviews for super chats, yeah. Damned Legion going up against Noise Marines on Saturday. Any tips for Thousand Suns? Noise Marines. Is it like just Slanesh Chaos Space Marines? Because if so, I guess watch out for Advance and Charge. If you have what do you call it? Disc Sorcerers, those guys are absolute solid gold against Slanesh Chaos Space Marines. Because they have advance and charge rolls, so they triple debuff movement speed. Your opponent goes from threatening like 15 to 20 inches to threatening like 7 inches. It's insane. So yeah, I would rock a couple of those bad boys. You can also just like scoot out, debuff, double move, run away. If it's just like a bunch of noisy boys, I mean, I think those are just like largely dudes with good guns. So. And enjoy the trading game, I guess. Everyone's going to kill each other's regular Space Marine profiles and call it a day. All right, let's continue our odyssey through these absolutely wild winning lists today, chat. We talked a little bit about Raccoon Rumble. Let's continue to talk about Raccoon Rumble because we saw a little bit of success from Grey Knights. There are actually multiple Grey Knights in the X and 1 bracket at Raccoon Rumble. Let's actually grab the final standings here because we were looking at Black Templars earlier. We saw some Thousand Suns. We saw some Grey Knights, Thousand Suns, some Tau, Eldar. All right, maybe just one Grey Knight in the X1. All right, I can only find one. But we had multiple events with Grey Knights in the X1 category. Yeah, okay. There was this 4 and 2 and a 5 and 1. But Nader Chama is who we're going to be talking about today. And his Grey Knights list. Oh my god, I've lost it already. What have I done? Here we go. So this begins with what I think is in my opinion, the required loadout for Grey Knights is Triple Brotherhood Librarian. And it is unfortunate a little bit that the state of the faction is such that you're kind of required to take Brotherhood Librarians in order to kill a thing, but they are very good at killing a thing as long as you're good at rolling twos or higher. I wish that their ability was rerollable. The psychic abilities being fallible on a 1, like I can understand, especially if they have a powerful effect. And you don't want to be able to like rest your whole game plan on it. It does suck if it is something that's vital for the matchup that you're playing in. The issue, in my opinion, for Grey Knights is that it is their only anti-tank weapon. So maybe just like throw them a bone. I don't know. I kind of just wish that psychic abilities were rerollable naturally, but they're not. So that's what it is. All right, we are rocking Castellan Crow and Caldor Drago. 2 Brotherhood Terminator squads. So one of these dudes is actually just by himself. I wonder if it's the Sigil guy. Because the Sigil guy can redeploy himself in response to shooting. If he's just by himself, he can set himself into a position where he's like 18 inches of something. He shoots them with his mind bullets, explodey bits. Your opponent goes around to just remove him, and then he ports away and then comes back the next turn. The Brotherhood Terminator squads, if you are cagey with them, and you put a bunch of guys in cover, and you don't give your opponent great lines of sight on them, they are actually pretty difficult to kill, especially if you're representing True Silver Armor or Mists of Deimos, or both on them. So, like, your opponent can't really get to melee, because if they move up to charge you, you'll Mists of Deimos away. You're a 0-up save with True Silver Armor in cover. And if you have a Narthessium in the unit, which they do, then they regenerate guys. So if you don't kill them, then they'll start to regenerate and come back. So, like, you can play a little bit more aggressively with the Brotherhood Terminator squads. They're not invincible by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not the easiest thing to kill. And then 1 Strike Squad, 3 Interceptor squads, a Paladin squad, so that's for Drago to join into, I imagine, and a Purifier squad. Looks like 10 Purifiers for Castle and Crow to hop into. Pretty classic, honestly. Interceptors are really sweet. We had I think a bit of a discussion about them the other day. Just their insane flexibility. They can turn on. They're essentially just gargoyles out of Tyranids that are lower OC but scarier, which is cool. For 1 CP, you can advance and shoot them, so they can move 18 inches, shoot, and then move again. So they're just like super duper fast. They don't have the OBSEC, and they're not as cheap as the strike squads, but they definitely make up for it. Pretty classic stuff. Pretty standard Grey Knights happening today. How much should we be able to usually super chat? Usually $5 is generally what I'll ask to do a list dive. All right. What else do I have in my notes sheet today? Okay, so moving on to some of the smaller events, by the way, chat. We have some other as yet kind of unseen factions. So I read most of your comments, by the way, in YouTube videos. So a lot of people are getting sad about the state of things like Grey Knights and TSons and Blood Angels. Blood Angels are still very good. The Blood Angels Gladius Task Force has been very successful thanks to the Librarian Dreadnought. But I wanted to talk about this event because it is this is Owen Bissell, by the way, who I think we've talked about on stream before. I think I've done videos on his list in the past. This is a Sons of Sanguinius, just like classic Codex cover. Warhammer community took a picture of the army to put in an article somewhere. Just regular ass Blood Angels army. We're not doing like wild and crazy stuff with teleporting and guns and fire discipline. We're just playing a bunch of angry vampire men with jump packs and using them to punch their opponents with thunderhammers into absolute oblivion. We're running Mephiston, Dante, Lamardes, a combi weapon lieutenant, 10 assault intercessors, which I think is where Mephiston jumps into, a big Death Company jump pack squad for Lamardes to hop into, an Inceptor squad for utility, an Infiltrator squad because they rule. We do have the Librarian Dreadnought in here, but obviously we're not teleporting gun dudes. And then look at this, chat. 10 Sanguinary Guard. Are you kidding me? It's classic. It's a classic list. 2 Whirlwinds, as well as a Calidus Assassin to pull out the rear. So we have a lot of teleporting. One interesting thing you can do is, like, you could use the Inceptor squad multiple times. You can to deep strike it in. When you teleport it with the Librarian Dreadnought, you can't use its 3-inch deep strike thing, but at least you can get them out of danger if they're in an awkward spot. The Librarian Dreadnought's up towards the middle. And you can also use the Librarian Dreadnought to just set up the big melee squads. Like, you can kind of use it as like a poor man's rapid ingress, where your Sanguinary Guard squad is like, you know, just out of range of your opponent, so you teleport it closer and set it up for, like, you know, a move and charge next turn. Yeah, I don't. It's also good for the assault intercessors because they're relatively slow and we're not running any transports for them. So being able to teleport those guys into aggressive positions up the table is really good as well. And they're actually, like, for 160 points, the damage output from these guys is pretty solid. If you can source an extra AP for their chain swords, I think they kind of go ham. Which is why they're usually seen in Gladius Task Force. A lot of times we see them in like a Dark Angels Gladius task force, interestingly. But that gives them Honor of the Chapter, so they get Lance and +1 AP in Assault Doctrine. In this case, we are likely just giving them Mephiston and then Righteous Crusaders. I've got Black Templars on the mind chat. You've mind-wormed me with the Black Templars. In Sons of Sanguinius, they do have a Lance strat on the charge as well. This guy gives a 5+ Feel No Pain, and he can muck with enemy attacks. He's like a Flying Hive Tyrant. He's got a little paroxysm effect. But then they also give him rerolls to wound on objectives, which is also sweet. It's pretty good. Interestingly, he has a Psychic Hood and an effect that damages himself. It damages himself, not his unit. That's weird. That's different than most psychic abilities. But the benefit is that his leadership ability, while he's leading a unit, he gives a 4+ Feel No Pain against psychic attacks. A psychic ability that deals mortal wounds is considered a psychic attack. So he can Psychic Hood his own failed Transfixing Gaze, which is kind of nice. That's like a weird little known, I think totally intended idiosyncrasy of the rules, because that's like nominally what a Psychic Hood is for, right? It's to prevent like perils from happening. But not everybody knows about that one. Pretty classic, chat. Just a regular old Blood Angels list. He called it the Fun Sons. You know, if you like Blood Angels, this is the list for you. Owen from V is for Volkite. Yeah, I believe this is from V is for Volkite. Yep, this one. I think I noted it down as the Hobart GT, but that's not right. It is V is for Volkite. That's correct, chat. What is the downfall to large mobs of boys? How do you come back? What is it? Like, how do you beat them? Just blast. Just a bunch of blast. That'll usually do it. Large infantry bricks. Defeating infantry is relatively simple in 40k right now. There's so many weapons that are like high attack volume. Just units that shoot a bunch of times and get sustained and get lethals and rerolls and all that stuff. You could also just take mass blast attacks. That also works pretty well. The reason that we don't see a lot of like mass boy squads right now is because of how answerable they are. We did see one, I think, this week that was running Madnok Grotsnick to keep it alive, but it's only 120 brick. You don't see like the classic like 180 orc boy lists quite as much anymore because the infantry sweeping in the game is just like so good. But what you do is put a bunch of those boys in transports, and you just take little units of boys that are also in trucks. If the Psychic Hood protect you against failed hazardous checks from psychic weapons? To my knowledge, it does not, which I think is an oversight. The rules as written, if I remember correctly, is that the damage from a failed hazardous check is a result of the hazardous rule, not damage from a psychic weapon. So, the mortal wounds that you are suffering from failing a hazardous check are hazardous mortal wounds. They do not have the psychic tag, which they would if they came from an attack sequence made by a psychic weapon or were inflicted as a result of a psychic ability. So I don't believe that you can Psychic Hood hazardous checks, which I think is a mistake, but I don't know if it's ever been ruled on by Games Workshop proper, which is a little weird. It kind of feels like you should be able to do that, but it is what it is. Amazing when Custodes are unplayable, how melee becomes more fun. In Odysseus, we've got a Custodes list next. The next one on my list is Custodes, so we'll jump over there. Friend just started Blood Angels. His first model was the Captain of Gravis armor. Good first model. That one's solid. You run that guy. He gives you your free strats. You can take him in a Gladius task force. You can throw the Apothecary Biologus in there. You teleport him around the table with Fire Discipline, lethal hits, free stratagems, and that guy just goes absolutely ham. That's like the classic build. That's probably what I would start your friend if they're just getting into Blood Angels. Start with Gladius Task Force and play like the Librarian Dreadnought teleporting stuff. But like you can move on to the more melee heavy stuff. But the Gravis Captain's is super cool. I love that guy. I love that he has 2 melee weapons. Boop, boop. Super fun. All right, let's dive into some Custodes. So this is from the Lightly Salted GT. And this was X and 1, appropriately named the other GT list. Custodes Shield Host. Look at these character selection, chat. What do we got? A bunch of Blade Champions? A bunch of Alaris Terminator Captains? Nope, it's just Trajan. Just the great man himself, Trajan Valoris. I don't even know what he enters into. I guess this Warden squad. So we do have a 5-man... It's 5, yeah. 5-man Warden brick with Trajan in it. All right, seems fine. We're then running 3 units of Alaris Custodians, 2 units of 3, 1 unit of 2 to teleport around the table and just generally be obnoxious. 2 Caladius Grav Tanks, 2 units of Venatari, 2 units of Witch Seekers, 1 Eversor. Lots of scouting. The Witch Seekers all have scouts, and the Eversor also has scouts. So you get a lot of board presence, like a lot of board control on the first turn. Plus, you can start the Alaris Custodians on the table, and then depending on what your opponent does, you can just put them into reserve end of your opponent's turn and then teleport them around. So you have like, you're just sort of spreading across the table early, protecting the Caladius Grav Tanks, and then using those to just like blazer down your opponent so that if they try to pop out and deal with the Wardens. I think a lot of times what happens is that like you throw the Wardens to the middle. If your opponent responds to them, you pop the 4+ Feel No Pain, maybe a -1 damage, and it is unlikely they kill the Warden squad. Or if they do, it takes literally their entire army. And then from there, you can just counterpunch with the Caladius Grav Tanks and Rapid Ingress with the Venatari Custodians. And I believe, if I remember correctly, the Venatari Custodians can all Rapid Ingress on the same turn. Because they can duplicate that stratagem in particular. Let's find their datasheet real quick here. Yeah, so they can fall back, operate normally, and once per battle, you can target the unit with Rapid Ingress for 0, even if you've already targeted a different unit with the stratagem. So I think you can, for 0 CP, just Rapid Ingress both of them, which is kind of, like, really good. So you have a lot of reactive play with this list. It's a lot more maneuverable between all the Alaris Custodians, the Venatari Custodians, and the big long-range guns than a lot of Custodes lists that are just focusing on, like, oh, I just want to put Custodian Guard Squads on objectives and reroll everything. This one's like a lot more jinky, a lot more janky, a lot more sort of tricksy, I guess, which I like. Very cool squad. Or very cool list. With a cool squad. Look at this weapon profile, by the way, chat. Strength 7, AP 2, 2 damage, that's whatever. Lance, 2+ weapon skill. That Lance really makes it. The other nice thing about these guys, I remember back in my day, Venatari Custodians had a 3+ save because they didn't wear pants. Because they had leather boots instead of whatever they make, Auramite boots. So they got -1 save, and that was always stupid. So they just got, like, vaporized by AP1 bolt guns. They would pop in and just, like, the whole unit would die. The 2+ save plus cover being easy to get means that these guys are 70 points a model for a 3-wound guy, but they are tough to kill for that price point, which is nice. Very, very good unit. I love this list. It's like a very technical style list. Like, there's tons of maneuverability with it, and I think that's super cool. All right, I think those are my picks for the for lists from the weekend. If anybody else has any other factions we want to dive into, give me a holler, and we'll start to take a look at those. I think somebody was asking about Chaos Space Marines previously. I don't know if we're going to talk about Chaos Space Marines. Chaos Space Marines getting a lot of looksies these days on best armies in 40k because they're very strong right now. So we probably want to talk about some other stuff. There was a Harlequins list, by the way. I don't know if Poly Principle is in chat. I think it was at I think it was maybe here. There was a 4-1-1 Harlequins list. Nope, not that one. Dang it! I saw it and now I don't remember where it was. What have I done? I've made a terrible mistake, chat. Oh, I lost the Harlequins list. No. Oh, I found it. It was Bid Mo Maelstrom. Oh, it was 3-1-1. Only a 5-round event. Just fully Harlequins. 3-1-1 with all Harlequins is pretty cool because you are really hamstringing yourself, just cutting 90% of your own factions roster out of selection. And we committed to the bit. Everything is a Harlequin unit. We're not just putting in Harlequins and then playing Inari, like some weirdo. We got a Fates Messenger. Fates Messenger. This is basically on messengers. This guy's just zipping around the table all the time, shooting his gun a billion times. Fates Messenger Death Dresser. So that's so he can auto trigger his sustain 3 with one of his dice. 1 regular Death Dresser, 1 Shadow Seer, 1 Solitaire, a Troop Master, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 troops, 4 Star Weavers, 3 Sky Weavers, 3 Void Weavers. Just running everything. You're like, all right, guys, we only have so many data sheets in this faction, in this sub-faction, so we're taking everyone a million times. And Harlequin troops, unironically, are actually kind of sick. Their pistol weapons aren't nearly as scary as they were in 9th edition, but they get +1 to wound on the charge. So, especially against like enemy light infantry, like they do appreciable damage, and they're only 75 points for a fast unit with a 4+ invuln save. So like they're not amazing, but they're pretty good. You know, you'd never say no to a nice Harlequin troop sometimes. What do you do for indirect without whirlwinds available everywhere? Take a rhino and put like just a slightly angled toilet paper roll on the top so it looks like it's a big gun. That's probably the answer. You can get, I think you can get replacement kits for the top hatch of a rhino pretty cheap that you can then rock them as a whirlwind. Or you can 3D print them too. They're certainly available for 3D printing. Oh yeah, so he's running oh yeah, mass haywire cannons. Oh no. And he played Skari? I didn't know that. That's funny. So Skari just puts a bunch of Talos in front of him and is like, I don't know, -1 to wound. It's just like that is I know that pain so much. In 8th edition I played an Imperial Fist list. I was so excited about this list. It was degenerate and stupid, and I hated myself for it. Every time I played it, it was so good, it would win me tournaments, but like I felt myself getting worse and worse at 40k because it was so brain dead. But it was like triple Thunderfire Cannon, triple Eliminator squads when Eliminators could shoot over walls, and like whirlwinds and artillery out the wazoo, big bricks of intercessors you could dump a bunch of strats on and make them one-shot Leman Russ and stuff. It was like super cool. Except that all of the Imperial Fist anti-armor tech was all against vehicles. And I was like, Tyranid suck right now. Nobody's playing demons. It'll be fine. And then I went to a GT and like my round 2 was against demons or whatever. It was like Magnus Mortarion, 3 Lords of Change or something. I was just like, oh no. And I could do nothing. I did kill them. I think I came close to tabling him, but I could not score points. He just ran everything up in the middle. I couldn't kill it fast enough. Absolutely hilarious. I know that feeling so well. The anti-armor, anti-vehicle gun that then does nothing against monsters is like classic. Oh, insane. Do I know if the Angron Rebirths played a big role in the 9-0 World Eater games? I don't, but those games were streamed on Twitch. Xenos Petting Zoo, who I think we raided over the weekend. Let's see if I can find them. Xenos Petting Zoo did stream them. Oh god, that's so loud. Holy shit. Yeah, and their games are archived. At least... It says their day 2 games are archived. I don't know if their day 3 games are there. It looks like they might have had some stream trouble. A lot of split clips here. But, yeah, you can go. Let me just send you a link. Here you go. You can go watch the games. I'm sure that they streamed him a couple times. Especially if they got to stream day 3, I'm sure they streamed him a couple times. You can watch those games. Angron Revive won him round 9. There you go, chat. Done. It did play a big part in his games. That's rad. That's super cool. Rampant ingress and walk onto objective for 5 points. Amazing. I love that. Stefanos, I talked about the triple Land Raider list in my video yesterday. Yeah. Am I streaming the standoff? I'm not. I'm not streaming the standoff, and I guess they wanted me to stream, the standoff team did, but I guess their venue doesn't allow external media coverage without like buying a separate license for it or something. Just like, so I'm not, through no fault of anyone. I would love to, but they said that they couldn't clear it with the hotel, which is super unfortunate. There's a non-zero chance I'll just be there, though. I don't have anything scheduled that weekend, and it depends on how much I want to watch the World Championships. Although the World Championships are like the day before, right? They're like awkwardly midweek. So maybe we're fine, actually. Oh, all the games are up on their YouTube channel. Oh, I didn't realize that. It does say that they restreamed them, so let's look at them. I should have mentioned, I forgot to put it into my video yesterday. Oh yeah, here they are. Yeah, they're all up here. Here you go, chat. I'll throw that in chat as well. I forgot to mention yesterday the live streams. They live streamed that event, and Flames of Autumn was live streamed by Wargames Live, which was won by the triple Land Raider list. So if you want, Stefanos in chat, if you want to watch that Land Raider list, go check it out on Wargames Live. That's Mark Hurdle. He actually played in the team event over on the Discord server as well. I watched a couple of his games in the Discord server last couple weeks. So come hang out in TacticalTortoise. We get all the big names up in here. Play the standoff. I played it. When did I play it? Last year? 2 years ago? When I played it with Harry Dan? That was very fun. It was an excellent event. Super duper good. I'll probably be there. Me playing in person Warhammer right now is it takes a lot off my plate in terms of like working time that I have, and so a lot of it depends on how confident I am in playing games. Sometimes I lose some games online and I'm like, I'm stuck at 40k. I'm gonna go edit a video today instead of playing. Just win the standoff. Just win it. Just win it. What should I play if I go, chat? Should I play 3 Mutalith Vortex Beast Thousand Sons? I don't have a display tray. Although I do have, I was thinking about it. I was looking at people's display trays on at Battle for Salvation, which were incredible. I took a ton of pictures of them, and I posted a couple of them on my Instagram. I might start a new Instagram for when I travel to events to post pictures of people's armies. I should just do that. I don't know why I keep thinking about it. I should just fucking do it. But the display boards there were incredible, and I was like, oh, I feel so inadequate with my hobby skill. But I do have a Realm of Battle I could repurpose into a display board, which would be kind of sweet. Tau? I'll win it with this Riptide. Chat, if I assemble my Riptide, what will I put on my shelf? What will I decorate my shelves with if I assemble this Tau army that I have sitting in boxes right here? I've also got like most of a Demon's army. I've got a Conquest Last Argument of Kings army that you just get for free by going to tournaments. I got a Kill Team starter. How will I display the fact that I own a bunch of 40k models I never use? All right. What army should we look at next, chat? I need direction. Someone tell me. We could look at Tau, although I don't know if Tau is that interesting right now. It's interesting because, like, everything is represented, which means that nothing isn't represented. So we've kind of like generically touched on most of the factions in the game between the video yesterday and today. Somebody was asking about Leagues of Votann. The XPG event that Skari won did have a Leagues of Votann in second place. If we want to take a look at that. This is running triple Iron Masters. What? Triple Iron Master and a Call. 3 Hearthkin Warriors. 6 Sagitors. Jesus. 3 Brokhyr Thunderkin. So we're just attaching the Iron Masters into the Brokhyr Thunderkin. I guess that is interesting because the Brokhyr Thunderkin don't actually need judgment tokens on if they're attacking vehicles, right? Because they have anti-vehicle 2 on the grav weapons, and then they just get +1 to hit from an Iron Master. So you could just shoot. You could just target everything else in your opponent's army with judgment tokens, and then just use the Thunderkin to kill their vehicles. 2 Heronkin Pioneers for utility and 10 Hearthguard. This list is nuts. 6 Sagittors, 3 Iron Masters, and Thunderkin units. Who needs land fortresses, chat? Who needs land fortresses? Who needs double Hearthguard? Get all that shit out of here. We're on the Brokhyr Thunderkin train. For 25 points, the profile of a Brokhyr Thunderkin is absolutely nuts, by the way. That's like not appreciably that much more expensive than like a regular Space Marine. You're paying like 5 more points than a lot of the Space Marine profiles in the game, and you get the amount of like additional DACA you get out of those guys is nuts. Is that Cody? Sometimes BCP puts it is, yeah, Cody Bourgeois. BCP puts the player name at the top, and sometimes it doesn't. I wish they would just always do that, so that I could reference who it is. I show the built Riptide? I would have to paint it, though, Chad. That's the issue. Typical size of a display board? Usually, like... It depends, honestly. It varies so wildly. I would say most of the time they're probably like 1 by 2, something like that, like this big, and then you put them on top of like a tray or a cart. But sometimes people go nuts with them. I've seen display boards that are like 3 by 3, 4 by 4, like literal entire battlefields that people have built to display their army, or that they're very tall. They're like multi-tier, like multi-level display boards. Those are the crazy ones where you get like. They model inside cave systems and stuff with, like, multiple levels or, like, cityscapes. Absolutely insane. Drukhari would be good. I do not have a Drukhari army. Unironically, I could play Drukhari. Drukhari are cool. I don't own any Drukhari models, though. That would be the rub. White primer paint an orange stripe. I did paint one Tau model. I don't think he made it up here, but I did like a desert camo scheme on a Breacher as a test model, and it came out okay. I wasn't like super enthused about it. And then Tau got nerfed, I think, immediately after. Because I assembled a bunch of battle suits. I assembled air-bursting fragmentation projector battle suits last edition, and then they got nerfed, and I was like, oh, never mind. But now I could just probably tell people that they're cyclic ion blasters, and no one would pay attention. No one would pay any heed. I put them on I modeled them specially so that they had 3 on the back, like a broadside, so they were like artillery pieces, which I thought were very cool. But then they got made really bad, so oh well. Okay, we'll do some exploring here, chat. For cool events. Let's our cool lists. We'll take a peek through Raccoon Rumble. The biggest event of the weekend. More Black Templars. Black Templars are just killing it right now. We have a little bit of Space Wolves at 411. See what we got going on over here. Oh, it's a Wolf Lance, chat. Hell yeah. This one's rocking Ulfrik the Slayer. Oh, it's gonna make me look up a data sheet. I have no earthly idea what Ulfrik the Slayer does. But I had his datasheet ready to go, apparently. Start of the fight phase, select an enemy unit within engagement range. You reroll hit and wound of 1. If it's a character, vehicle, or monster, reroll the hit roll and wound roll. Holy crap! This isn't once per game, right? It's just every phase? And it gives +1 leadership, which is actually, like, kind of relevant right now. Or not +1 leadership, he just makes them lead 5. That's pretty relevant currently, just because, like, mass battle shock checks are pretty common currently. Ulfrik the Slayer, are you amazing? He's 70 points. What does he join? Not that, you. Bloodclaws, Grey Hunters, Longfangs, Wolfguard. What are we putting him in? Bloodclaws? Big Bloodclaw unit with full rerolls? And Bloodclaws get additional attacks on the charge, right? That's their deal. Yeah, +1 attacks and strength. So, I guess that is, like, sort of situationally better than getting +1 full rerolls from the, like, Assault Intercessors do, because you're going up to Strength 5 AP1 rather than Strength 4 AP1 rerolling. You have the same number of attacks of the Bloodclaw unit on the charge versus a regular Assault Intercessor unit, and you're getting full rerolls from Ulfrik against almost everything in the game. Character, monster, and vehicle describes almost every frontline unit in 40k right now. And the ones that aren't characters, monsters, or vehicles, you probably just kill anyway. Especially with the Lance stratagem. Although that's mounted only, I think, for Stormlance, so you don't get that one. Ulfrik the Slayer. Holy crap. Plus this unit advances and charges for free because it's a Stormlance. That's 210 points for like 40 full rerolling attacks. Plus Ulfrik, 46. That unit rocks. What? That's so sick. Okay. Cool. And then 3 Wolfguard battle leaders. No Wolf Lords. Oh, we have got 1 Wolf Lord. There is 1. And a lieutenant. 1 Rhino to keep the Bloodclaws in. Okay. Wow. All right. So the throw range out of the Rhino was like 3 + 6 plus an advance plus a charge. So, like, charitably 19 or 20 inches. Oof. Woof. 1 big Eradicator squad. Fenrisian Wolf squad. Gladiator Lancer. 1 Inceptor squad. A big Inceptor squad. Holy crap. Okay. You can give these guys sustained for a CP because their weapons are already assault, so that's kind of a benefit. And they full reroll against the Oath target, so they're good for just, like, burning down a tank if you need them to once per game. You're just like, all right, here we go. 12 shots, sustained 1, full rerolls. Blammo. An Infiltrator squad, Scout squad, 3 units of Thunderwolf Cavalry, 6 apiece with Storm Shields. Ulfrik the Slayer. Wow. What a guy. Oh my god. Okay. I'm learning something new every day, chat. That's cool. If a Gargantuan Squirgoth, so 2 foot by 2 foot has to be it. No, if you have a Gargantuan Squirgoth, chat, the Gargantuan Squirgoth is your display board. You just have that with all the boys on top. Custodian Dreadnought spam. Is there a Dreadnought spam Custodes list? I doubt it, right? Not too many Custodes. We talked about the most exciting Custodes, the teleporting Custodes. I don't know if we got any Dreadnought lists going on. Those Custodian Dreadnoughts are horrible, by the way. That's a sad time for them. We got a little bit of Salamanders action from Hobart GT. It's exciting. Nico Urea. What's up, dude? Thanks for, you were playing Thousand Suns, right? Yeah, we spend a lot of time on your list because it's absolutely nuts. Let me go back to where I was here. Yeah, you were Magnus-less Thousand Suns. This list is cool. If you have any insights that you want to share in chat, I think we would be all ears, because the triple Mutalith Vortex Beast, triple Forge Fiend tech is extremely spicy. And so if you want to share with us your Mutalith Vortex Beast wisdom, that would be amazing. Wish Custode Dreadnoughts were good, yeah. I mean, they were last edition. They had their time in the sun, I think. But, man, they suck now. We already talked about Death Guard, chat, yeah. The Death Guard did win an event. So we talked about the winning list in my video yesterday, and I just talked about the X1 list with all the knights in it earlier today. Or Deathwatch starts with a hiss and a roar, gets no attention, nursed into oblivion. Yeah. Yeah, sad times for Deathwatch. They just need new detachments. Their detachment was like built around very specific combos, and getting those combos specifically nerfed was very unfortunate for them. All right, what were we just looking at, by the way? We looked at this one. We looked at this one. We were looking at... I've lost my train of thought here, Shan. I apologize. Looked at Votann. Oh, Salamanders. We were looking at Salamanders. And a Firestorm Assault Force, which I think you gotta be doing. Has Salamanders like cemented their domination of the Firestorm Assault Force? Do you just play Vulcan Heston if you're playing that detachment? Because he is so good in that detachment. Turns out, Devastating Wound Torrent weapons with full rerolls are very, very good. If every time you shoot, if you basically average like 1.1 mortal wounds, or devastating damage, I should say, from every flamer that you shoot from this army, right? Because you average like 3 shots, which is like 0.5 of a 6 to wound with a reroll, so it's like close to a 6, close to like 1, mathematically guaranteed. I'm not going to say actually guaranteed, but you are likely to get 1 devastating wound from each flamer that you shoot with the reroll. So 10 flamers means 10 devastating damage out of this detachment. That's crazy with that strat. Gravis Captain, Aggressor Squad with Flamestorm Gauntlets, 2 Ballistic Dreadnoughts, Eradicator Squad, 1 Big Infernus Squad. I love it! They're so good! 2 Infiltrator Squads, 2 Land Raider Redeemers, and a Storm Speeder Hail Strike. So the +1 AP Storm Speeder. So you can give all the Torrents AP1. And then you can give Vulcan can give the Infernus Squad full rerolls, the Aggressor Squad gets full rerolls. You can both of them do Devastating Wounds onto something, because you can duplicate the Devastating Wound strat with the Gravis Captain, and you can average like 19 devastating damage out of the 2 for 2 CP. It's pretty good. That's almost a whole night with just flamers. Not to mention the fact, and I think honestly the most, at least in my games with Firestorm Assault Force, the most exciting part about Vulcan is that he gives wound rerolls to the Redeemers, which you never think about. You're like, the Flamestorm Cannon is very good gun. Good, like it's short range, but it's good strength, good damage, decent AP, but at least it doesn't reroll to wound. And then Vulcan's like, or does it? You should reroll against that guy, Mr. Land Raider Redeemer. And then his multi-melt is rerolling, his Flamestorm Cannon's rerolling, he's strength 7, which is a big breakpoint because you wound T5 on, or T12 on 5s, excuse me. And then you can give it +1 to wound with Crucible Battle if you're within 6 inches. So the Land Raider Redeemer can shoot 2d6 plus 6 times, winning on 4 is full rerolls. What is that? That's insanity. Whoa! Absolutely insane. Oh my god. Shout out to Archon Skari. Shout out to Skari. Taking it down with Drukari. Mr. Skari Drukari over there. Tips for taking out big knights in Chaos Knights instead of all War Dogs. Tips for taking big knights. I think there are lists that I have liked that run 1 Rampager in the center of the War Dog swarm. And I think that that's pretty cool. The one thing that War Dogs can kind of fall apart on a little bit is that, like, Carnivores hit pretty hard, but if your opponent just scalpels out the Carnivores, or just, like, refuse flanks them or whatever, and doesn't go near them, then, like, Brigands, like, aren't going to do anything in melee. They're just, like, just wandering around. Like Huntsmen are garbage in melee. The only good melee thing you have is like the Stalker, but even then it's not that great. So having one Rampager gives you that like big punch. The one thing you can't do with it is play very aggressively, because I mean ultimately Chaos Knights are basically a gunline army. But you can use you can sort of like hide it. You can keep it in like in obtrusive areas around the table, and then you can Knights of Shade it through walls to really obnoxious positions in the middle and just blow stuff up. I think the one Rampager is pretty solid. Like a single Despoiler is okay too, but it's a little tough because it's more of like just a gun platform, and people are going to try to get away from it, which doesn't really synergize quite as well with the War Dogs. The War Dogs already shoot hard enough that you don't really need extra shooting. I think the downside is like the big melee punching. Yeah, Nurgle Matt and I. Same page, my dude. We're on the same page. Nico. Enlightened loadout was a mistake. They were all great bow and a pistol and chainsword. Sick. Yeah, that's... I make the same mistake every time. Because for some reason, the default loadout is the stupid spear. So I think I played through 2 or 3 tournaments where all those my stupid ass Enlightened were running spears. And there was always a situation where like somebody would be like, overcharged my psychic weapon. Failed my hazardous check. Take 3 damage. I was like, I'm going to get that guy with this Enlightened. And I remember he has a stupid spear. Mistakes were made. I have my Enlightened on my desk, by the way. I did assemble them with bows. I have no excuse now. They are bow friends. Yeah, I just like, if you have a, Nico, if you have just a sort of a, okay, Cat, if you have, I don't know, just a general, summary of the game plan for the list, I think that would be cool. Because it's so different from normal Thousand Sons, builds that I think it would be cool for people to hear. And in the meantime, we can search a little bit. Do a little bit of Astra Militarum we could talk about. I know people are all up into Astra Militarum. Midmo Maelstrom, which was, I think, the kind of haven for spicy list this weekend. That's where we got the Genestealers from. Running a combined regiment. This is Kyle McCord, who's an Astra Militarum stan, if I remember correctly. Running Gonskos, Lord Solar Leontis, a Grand Strategist Tank Commander, 10 Cadian Shock Troopers, 1 Chimera for them to hang out in. A Bulgrin squad. Interesting. We haven't been seeing the Bulgrin squad just to sort of bully the middle objective for a while. They're good at killing like other kind of lighter stuff in melee. They're not going to blow up a tank, but they're tough to kill. They're minus some damage of a Fiona. I think you can get an invuln save from their shield. And then have a Fiono Pain baked in, so that just the amount of wounds that for 160 points you get is kind of insane. They just stand there for a while. That is traditionally Astra Militarum's issue is holding the middle objectives, but the Chimeras, they take a lot of dedicated transports now with the shock troops inside, and then having tougher units like this definitely helps. 2 Rogel Dorns, 2 Manticores, double Scout Sentinels, 1 Tempestus Ion. And we had a Basilisk, right? Yeah, double Basilisk. So we got a pretty solid artillery core in the back there behind the transports and Rogaldorns. Pretty classic. A little light on infantry, interestingly. Just the one shock troop squad and then the auxiliary units. Adepta Sororitas, I don't know if we've really covered this week. They didn't have quite the same level of success as we've seen them in past weeks. Rocking Junith. So this is Dan Salmons. Rocking Junith, a saintly example missionary. So we want that guy to die. He can jump into the Arcoflagellant units to buff them. But we want him to die to then trigger saintly example, and then we can Divine Intervene him to bring him back and then do it again, potentially, is usually the play pattern. We've got Celestine, 2 Rhinos we can carry around Arcoflagellants with, plus a triple Castigators with Battle Cannons, triple Crusaders, triple Exorcists, Mortifiers, 1 Seraphim Squad, and single Mortifier, Seraphim Squad, and a Catalyst Assassin. A lot of tanks. 2 Rhinos, 3 Castigators, 3 Exorcists, every battle tank forever. And then Arcoflagellants for a little bit of punch. I think Arcoflagellants were kind of like the secret sauce for Sisters. Obviously, they needed their big buff in the data slate to be good, but they were like the missing piece of the puzzle, I think, because Sisters just didn't do anything in melee. Outside of the characters, like outside of Morven and Celestine, you weren't really doing anything once you got engaged. And the Arcoflagellants are just like squeegee your whole formation clean, at least of infantry. Less damage against vehicles, but they're still cheap. It doesn't really matter so much. And go back to the Thousand Sons list, chat. The Thousand Sons list is a Nid-style monster mash, but with Thousand Sons. Forge Fiends trade no dev wounds for -1 to hit, suppression, and only 135 points. Well, Vortex Beasts are debatably the best monster in the game. Interesting. Yeah, the interesting thing, like I ran triple or single Forge Fiend for a long time, mostly as an answer to like Custodes and Gravis units, because you could get the triple blast on 3 damage guns. But I found that like the number of times that they just fired and did nothing was like so high. I eventually cut it. But I think that having 3 is like the redundancy there, right? Where you're like, if you roll the 3d3 shots enough times, eventually you just spike a bunch of times and blow somebody up, which definitely follows. That tracks for sure. And I do like that they are, they're tough enough. I think that like the biggest benefit they get for their points value is like their defensive stat line, right? You get a T10 with a 5+ invuln save for 135, which is like really nice. Is there any viability to Wyverns? Not really. A lot of times the problem that you run into with low AP, like low AP indirect fires, they just don't do quite enough damage. I think the issue is that they're twin linked rather than being 4d6 shots. Is the real issue right now. They can't suppress monsters and vehicles, which usually doesn't matter so much. And with most, like a lot of the game being a 3+ save, like you don't really get the benefit of indirect fire if you're shooting at a 3+ save in cover, or of ignore cover, excuse me, because they're like, well, I'd be claiming cover, but I wouldn't even get cover anyway because I would be all the way down to a 3+, so you basically don't get a benefit from ignore cover. So it only works against 4+ save stuff. I don't think they have the attack volume. If they were either 2 mortars, like 2 individual mortars, so they could benefit from blast individually, or they were like a 4d6 shotgun instead of twin linked, I think you would probably see them occasionally. But right now, they just have a profile that people don't really need. People don't need like mid strength AP 0 shots. They need like 2 damage, like AP 2 damage shots to punch through heavier armor. The average damage that this guy does to a Space Marine squad is like 1. You shoot 7 times on average. Hit on 3s. If you're ignoring indirect fire, you hit on 3s. So if you have a Scout Sentinel, so you get like 1 lethal and like 4 additional hits. Then you wound those like 3 times. So you're forcing 4 saves and a 3+ save. Maybe you do 2 damage to a Space Marine squad. Not really worth the points, unfortunately. Forge Fiends die very quickly to sustain fire. 6 monsters, you can't hide them all, but the Vortex Beasts are on fire with the railgun shot and 10-inch move. Interesting. Have you ever... I've always been interested in Chaos Knights with Thousand Suns, if they're playing like the mobile characters, to turn off saves on people and then shoot them with the high volume Chaos Knight guns. Are they just too expensive in that situation? I guess that makes sense, right? Pinky's going ham today. What, kitty? Wah. The big downside for the Thousand Suns list is that you can't target the knights with Thousand Suns buffs. They only get the debuff Kabbalistic Ritual, which is too bad. Not being able to double move them is sad. Oh, also the Demon Prince. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I gotcha. Yeah, I don't know if I'd really consider the Demon Prince enough. Like, most of the time, he's like, granting stealth to 10 Rubric Marines, which is like, okay. They'll die in one additional shooting activation, I guess. It doesn't really matter. It's good on Magnus, but I don't know if I'd consider it with 6 monsters. That actually makes a ton of sense. And he's like, he's not going to go down anytime soon if your opponent has to deal with Mulith Vortex Beasts. So you can kind of just, like, threat overload them. Alright, I'll buy it. This list seems cool. Maybe I'll give this one a go. It doesn't have Magnus, which makes me sad, but the fact that it is Thousand Suns does make me happy. Is a Horus Heresy Scorpius Missile Tank acceptable proxy for all Whirlwind? Absolutely. 100%. In fact, most of the time, or often, Scorpius were so popular in 8th edition because they were super broken that I think they sort of saturated the market. So for a long time, you never saw regular Whirlwinds on the table. Everyone would just proxy a Scorpius as their Whirlwind. That is very widely accepted. And I think when a lot of that stuff moved to Legends, Games Workshop kind of like tacitly approved that it would be usable as a proxy. I know they specifically set it for stuff like Bike Squads and the other Firstborn Marines that moved to Legend. Horus Heresy stuff translating into 40k units is like that's a very classic pipeline. Yeah, I agree. Magnus gives your opponent something to focus. Yeah, it feels like he becomes the focal point of your army to an extent that you have to baby him the whole time, and I think he just like pulls all the resources away from the rest of the team. He's like 2 or 3 CP down around, just keeping him alive and keeping him doing damage to people. And he does a lot of damage, but that means the rest of your army's kind of doing nothing. Demon Prince giving the Infernal Master Precision is clutch. Oh, that is spicy. That's extremely spicy. Because he gives it specifically to Rubric squads, right? So, but it will just affect everything in the unit. That's extremely cute. I didn't think about that. Yeah, I guess you can also... it's also start of any phase. So you can give it to, like, the Flamer Brick in charge phase if they're going to get charged or something, and they can just kill your leading character on Overwatch. Once per battle, though, but that's very cool. I don't know. I didn't internalize it was any phase. That's wild. That's absolutely wild. It also affects you in melee, too. That's cool. Do you put the, yeah, I guess you probably have to put the Arcane Vortex guy in with the Rubric Marines, right? Yeah. Give him the rerolls. Does good rerolls. Either have Magnus or 3 Forge Fiends. I guess that is a side grade. Magnus is so much more reliable and better at scoring, but also... I mean, also to be fair, he's like 45 more points, and he takes a billion CP to run. So he does end up... He has additional opportunity costs over the Forge Fiends, too. Even though the weapon profiles are kind of similar, though, right? Armand's okay in melee. AP1. That always gets me. That man never rolls devastating for me. And he always just bounces off Armor of Contempt. My opponent's like, oh, I'll -1, I'll -1 save against him, and then just does nothing. I always hope he does 3 damage, but nah, he always fails. You only get dev wounds when you roll 6s. That's my problem. I'm bad at rolling 6s. Just gotta roll better, I guess. Inky, no. All right. Any other lists that we want to jump into before we hop off here, chat? If anybody has any factions that we want to take a quick peek at before we rock off, then I'm happy to do that. Blue Scribes and Vortex Beast Aura stacks? Yeah. That is good. I got Blue Scribes into I think my most exciting Blue Scribe activation was into a bike list that was running like 3 attack bikes and 3 Invader ATVs. And he did like 12 mortal wounds. It was very good. But being able to do both is amazing. Guild Gaming GSE. Oh yeah, let's take a quick peek for GSE. See what we got. I know TJ Lanigan was playing them at Flames of Autumn. So there's a little bit going on there. Oop, this is a team event. I didn't see any at Raccoon Rumble. GSE might have been kind of like the loser of the weekend, I guess. Not a lot going on for that faction this week. More Leagues of Votann, more Orcs. Flames of Autumn. Did he go down? Ew. 1-2 drop. Oh no. Oh no, chat. What happened to our poor Genestealer called friends? That is brutal. We'll do a list search for them, even though we probably won't get anything good. I want somebody at the BCP team to tell me why no lists come up on list searches, or they very rarely do. So GT Talavera was a team event. They had a 4-1-1 GSC player. TTT23, which is another team event. So GSC looking like they're doing well in the team format, which is good. Gives them kind of another lease on life. Oh, Keeley went 3-0 at a RTT. Keeley's a TTS god, by the way. I think we've had some very funny videos of Keeley online. If you look up, God, what's the name of the video? There's one, I think it's called like Dimacaron Destruction or something on this channel. I believe that is a Keeley VOD. And it is probably one of my favorite Demacaron Rampage. It's one of my favorite videos of this channel, and nobody watched it, but it's extremely funny. It's like a VOD breakdown. Here you go. I'll give you a thing. There you go, chat. Nico, 95% of the time outflanking Winnie Zangors, deep striking Blue Scribes. They have a lot of indirect you outflank the Armon Flavor Squad, yeah. Yeah, that's you kinda got to. But they're so good at outflanking because you can move after the outflank, which is very nice. Can leaders attach after the battle starts if their original unit is destroyed? You cannot. Leaders are attached during the battle formation section, and then that is their attachment for the whole game. It never changes. If the unit is destroyed, then they're just by themselves. Nico game plan is homers. Some other secondary. Spend your CP on rerolling vortex hit or wounds. Rolling a vortex hit or wound in the Infernal Master. Keep treating up by giving enemy units -1 to hit. Yeah, that makes sense. It is interesting that it's playing the Tyrannid game plan with non-Tyrannids. Like, I guess it is like sort of directly comparable to Tyranids, right? Like, you don't have gargoyles, I guess, but like a Forge Fiend is basically just a big Maliceptor with a longer range gun, but it's easier to kill. And a Meatless Vortex Beast is like sort of or I guess like a Forge Fiend and an Exocrine are basically the same unit. They're like identical. Like almost the same defensive stat line too. I think the Exocrine's 2 more wounds, but the Forge Fiend has invuln. And then Vortex Beasts and Maliceptors are pretty similar, but Vortex Beasts being harder to kill, I can understand. Worse saves, but better. But the Feel No Pain makes it better. Yeah, that's interesting. Very cool. Thanks for coming in and giving us the lowdown. By the way, it's cool to get the breakdown from the horse's mouth, as it were. Definitely gives us more context to talk about, which is something we're sometimes missing when we talk about really spicy lists, which are very personalized, and this one I think is clearly an example of that. And congratulations on doing so well at the top 8ing the California Cup. That's a big deal. Started playing competitive 40k on my TTS maps. That's awesome, dude. I'm glad that they gave you a good launching point. A good ramp off into competitive 40k. All right. Well, we can talk about Keely's list here as we ramp things up. Buddy's asking me for tips on GSE for teams. I think GSE are good for teams because they score so highly, right? Like, they can just play for scoring points. Like, they don't even care about killing. They're like, I'm not going to win, but if I like lose an 80 to 85, like, it doesn't matter. So you just constantly recycle units into objectives and stuff. We have a Biophagus, a Primus, 2 Reductus Saboteurs. Looks like 5 units of Acolyte Hybrids, 5 units of 5, or 5 units of 10, excuse me, with demolition charges, the 20-man Neophyte Hybrid Brick with grenade launchers and mining lasers. Interesting. Not seismic cannons. Plus a Goliath Truck, 1 unit of Aberrants, 1 Achilles Ridge Runner, and allies, Cadian Shock Troops, Catachan Jungle Fighters, Chimera, Cyclops Demolition Vehicle. I know the Cyclops Demolition Vehicle is new tech from the last couple of weeks. This gives them a 25-point outflanker they can use to pop off the side of the table and perform actions with. 25 points for this little dude. I guess we can pull up his data sheet too. That's pretty interesting technology. Not something that we're seeing from Astra Militarum proper. I think because they just run Tempestus Scions in that slot. Oh, I don't know if I have their datasheet downloaded, chat. They are on the Forge World document. I might have forgotten to download it. Let me pull it up. There we go. So they deadly demise just for 1 on a 4+, which is funny. They detonate when they move within 3 of enemy units, or enemy units move within 3 of them. Can do D3 mortal wounds or D6 mortal wounds on a 6. That's not a very good ability. It also doesn't stack with their deadly demise, which is unfortunate. But for 25 points, you get a T4 dude with 4 wounds and a 3+ save. It's not the easiest thing in the world to kill. They're not like Spore Mines or Ripper Swarms. And they can just pump off the side of the table and do an action. It's pretty okay. That's not too bad. Plus, we actually get a lot of like turn 1 board control. Kadoshi Jungle Fighters with scouts, and you can put them in a at least one unit in a Chimera to Chimera up the table. Outside of taking Aberrants with Inscrutable Cunning, which we do have, and the Lone Operatives, there's oftentimes not a lot of like forward pressure on turn 1 from a Genestealer Cult army, and these definitely give you the opportunity to do that. So you have like an OBSEC unit in the back to hold down your objectives. Kadosh and Jungle Fighters can push super far up the table on turn 1. You can also hit with the Aberrants. So you can use this stuff to kind of lock your opponent down on turn 1 between the Infiltrators, the Natural Infiltrators, and the Inscrutable Cunning Aberrant unit, which can go right up in the front of the table and then just like muck with your opponent. And then everything else can deep strike behind it. Or you can just use these guys to hold down territory and play like a more of a passive game plan if you really want to. But the Alpha Strike is real from this army. That's really cool. New technology from Genestealer Cults. Who would have thought? That's good stuff. Very nice. All right, chat. Well, I think that is that's all the armies that I wanted to talk about today. We are running up on time here. I'm going to be live in about 30 minutes or so over on the Twitch channel. So we'll wrap this one up, but if you want to keep the show going, I'm going to be playing some super spicy Tyranids over there against Drukhari. I have no idea who's going to win that one or how I'm going to win it. The answer is probably I don't, but we'll see. And I'll see you over there. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Big thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video. I should have, if you're looking for more content, the third part of the How to Play series releasing later this week. And then obviously, please, this stream is going to redirect you to the Saturday stream for Battle Brothers GT. Please go check that out as well. Give yourself a little notification bell on that one because it's going to be a sick stream. I'm going to be heading over there the day after tomorrow to go hang out in Carolina with the Battle Brothers boys and stream some 40k. It's going to be good. I bought a lot of new equipment that I'm going to be testing out over the course of the week. So that was very expensive, but I hope it works. We'll see. All right. And with that, everybody, thanks for coming and hanging out. And I will see you over on the Purple channel in a bit. So cheers, everyone. And remember to keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, all that stuff. And I'll see you there. Hey, thanks for the follows over on Twitch, by the way. I appreciate you.